Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have held up relatively well following a volatile last year. Bitcoin rallied last month but has retreated from its highs. Investors are holding their annual gathering in Miami this week, feeling a little beat up but also optimistic. Here's Nitza Soledad Perez.
What a difference a year makes. This was the Bitcoin Conference 2022 in Miami. Packed. This year, despite a much lower turnout, things are brighter for attendees. After a so-called crypto winter, when some currencies lost more than 55% of their value.
I think any of the turmoil that you've seen over the last 6 months, really over the last couple of years, it's a flight to quality. And a lot of people have said this from the beginning, but Bitcoin, is number one and always has been the number one digital asset.
In 2022, one of crypto's largest exchange platforms, FTX, collapsed, and its CEO was arrested. Global inflation caused investors to sell risky assets such as cryptocurrencies and stocks. Terra USD and Luna also collapsed. The hedge fund Three Arrows Capital filed for bankruptcy. Altogether, the crypto market was down more than $1 trillion. Bitcoin rallied this year, bouncing back above the $30,000 level in April, although it has since dropped more than 10%.
I think that what people have realized is that crypto, and particularly Bitcoin, is an effective store of value. And so when you have crises, whether it be with banks and sort of traditional financial systems, the ability to have control over your own assets and wallet becomes vital.
It is definitely a risk-averse asset, and with all the inflation going on and the rates continue hiking, we believe it will continue growing, yeah. And it's having some bumps, but we have a lot of confidence.
Bitcoin enthusiasts from other parts of the world agree. What continues to appeal so many investors at this conference is Bitcoin's decentralized nature, a limited supply of 21 million coins. Daria Turker is the owner of a cryptocurrency firm in Turkey.
You don't compare Bitcoin with other cryptocurrencies.
Why?
Because Bitcoin is a completely different, there's no CEO of Bitcoin, there's no owner of Bitcoin, there's no one there's no marketing team, there's no one controlling it.
Bitcoin's resilience has some predicting a $100,000 valuation by the end of next year. Others are more cautious.
I think the worst is behind us, but I think it's still a slow climb. When you have these setbacks, we still have a lot of regulatory uncertainty, which I think is hurting the industry right now. So, I think maybe the worst is behind us in terms of collapses and bankruptcies, etc. But it doesn't mean we're just going to bounce back to where we were 2 years ago.
It's been a 14-year wild ride for Bitcoin, plagued by skepticism, booms and busts. But it has contributed to a shift in perception of traditional financial systems and a $1 trillion market value impossible to ignore. Nitza Soledad Perez, CGTN, Miami.
For more insight into the future of cryptocurrency, I'm joined by Mark Dukas. He's the crypto analyst at the Bitcoin.Live since 2018 and also founder of Bitcoinsmartmoney.com. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. It's a topic that I have been talking about for many years now, and I hate to admit it, but I still don't fully understand the great appeal of Bitcoin. But clearly there is a number of people out there who believe strongly in cryptocurrency. Help us. What is the number one reason why people should buy or invest in cryptocurrencies?
There's not necessarily a number one reason. And first of all, thanks again for having me. But there's a multitude of reasons of why Bitcoin makes sense for the world. And it's just not something for, say, first world countries. It's everything from developing nations to first world countries and using it as a store of value. And with the Lightning Network, which is growing at a capacity which has hit all-time highs, the Lightning Network will enable micropayments and then small payments between vendors and business to business.
So when I think of the traditional way of how currencies are valued, the U.S. dollar is I guess, backed by the faith and confidence of what $1 can buy you at any given store, and vice versa. You name the currency in another country, typically it has a store value. What's the stored value of crypto, and how do you analyze that?
So one of the things you want to look for is how secure is Bitcoin? And when you look at it from a security point of view, it is the most secure payment platform in the world. And that's garnered by the supercomputing power of the miners that run the Bitcoin network and those nodes. So the power behind Bitcoin is the hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure that's built behind the network, the faith of people that work and put their man hours into it, and then the businesses that are built upon that. So that's just not the $500 billion market cap that it currently has. This is going to be worth trillions of dollars as it grows and evolves over the next decade.
Some of the bumps in the road that we have talked about, Sam Bankman-Fried, for example, over at FTX, I still think that we are facing sort of unknowns as to what exactly happened. If things were so safe and so protected, that should have never occurred. And critics would argue that that's why you need more regulation, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But what is post-FTX, and what do you think the fallout ultimately will be on the industry?
The fallout originally, what happens is you've got a black eye that has to be recovered from. And that black eye is slowly being recovered from in the faith of what's going to be built upon for these centralized exchanges and the confidence that people can have to put their money into these platforms. The regulation, what that will do, it will help protect the retail person that isn't so sure on how to trade Bitcoin and other cryptos. It'll help provide them some security and give them some peace of mind. It does sound like it hurts some of the innovation that happens within tech in this crypto industry, but it helps over the long term, and that's what we want to accomplish. It's not just about the next few years, it's about the next decades to come.
The EU announced a number of regulatory, I guess, stances with respect to cryptocurrencies. A lot of people are saying this is a precursor for really the rest of the world to kind of jump on board. And some have argued that there should be kind of a global, if you will, entity that regulates crypto because, as you said, crypto's not really just one country, right? It crosses borders. Could we have a global crypto regulatory agency, or at this point, are we stuck with each individual country coming up with ways to protect consumers?
I think right now we have the innovation of each individual country, and we're looking for maybe a larger nation to step forth and use some of their backings and manpower and brain power in order to help build that ecosystem and that platform. And I think that just takes time.
How much of people's personal assets, if they want to invest in cryptocurrency, as you say it's safe and it's a way to diversify. What's a fair percentage that someone would put all of their money, or how much of their money should they invest into crypto assets?
It goes back with the old cliche of what you feel most comfortable with, but think about if you were to take 1% or 3% of your net worth, and then it grows into something of 10 to 20%, and now you have this huge chunk of change to re-divest or reinvest into other different ventures for yourself. And that's what the power of Bitcoin and some of these other crypto projects can allow newer individuals, millennials, and then upcoming generations.
What is critics often talk about the lack of regulation, the type of individuals that they work in black boxes. You don't really know who's running what, and you lose your passwords and things of that nature. What is the greatest risk to the cryptocurrency world today?
The greatest risk is being greedy and putting your money into something that you think will outperform something to a supernatural level. So when you start to think and see these things where they promise or can do more things that are potentially eye-raising, that's something that you should take note of. There's nothing that's going to be so easy in this game that'll allow you just to become an overnight millionaire. It's something that is a crawl slowly, and then you can get to the next steps. And when you take that time and you invest the education of learning about how Bitcoin works and its fundamental powers, then you can start to self-custody and hold your Bitcoins and be your own bank, and then not have to worry about bank runs or other crises that we can be up against here in the coming years.
Mark Dukas, we have a lot to learn. I wish you well, and thank you for your analysis on this.
Thank you as well for having me.